choir could come on in. Is anybody hearing me? Dimitri, could you tell the choir to come on in?
By the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in
Beautiful. Yes, this is the point, the Humanist Hour, even though we're here in the sanctuary because we have a wonderful reception for you following the service. The Day Alliance has put on a great spread, and we hope you'll be able to stay around afterward. Thank you to our beautiful choir. We're going to be hearing more music And it's just a wonderful service. We're also going to be remembering some of our members who are no longer with us, but who are very much with us in spirit. If you're here for the first time as our guest, this is the 102nd birthday of All Souls, and we are celebrating today, and we're so glad you could join us, whether you're here in person or online. Welcome, welcome, and it's special to have guests on one's birthday. And we also have a little gift for you if you're here in the building. Please stick around, and on your way out, make sure to grab one of these bags. It's our birthday gift to you, and we hope to get to know you better. Reverend Ren Pasco is our online minister today for those on Zoom, and she'll be sticking around for some conversation after the service. And if you're here for the first time, there's a Connect card in the back of the pew. We'd invite you to fill that out. You can stick it in the offering basket later, and we will stay in touch with you. There's also an online Connect card, and we hope you'll fill that out. We really want to get to know you and connect with you as we go forward into this beautiful spring season. All right, with that, I'd like to invite you, if you would, to read with me the words of All Souls Covenant printed here in your program. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Welcome to All Souls, where we love beyond belief. All right, and with that, I would like to invite three very special women to come forward and light our chalice this morning. In honor of Women's History Month, we've asked the women past presidents of our Board of Trustees to light our chalice this morning on the 102nd birthday. They stand in for some other great women. This is Donna Dutton, Floretta Reed, and Alicia McLean. And Sharon McElroy could not be with us. And we also are thinking today especially of Jerry Jones, our first woman president, and Eddie Crumey, who was our second, who are no longer with us in body, but who are very much always with us in spirit. Thank you all.
We light our chalice on the 102nd birthday of All Souls, remembering that the true joy of life is being used for a purpose. Let this one flame remind us that we belong to each other in community. We kindle this symbol of our free faith and keep it burning during our lifetime. May we help it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Shannon Boston, your religious educator, and I have a story for you today, an ancient story that I have rewritten to be set in Oklahoma. It is called the Persimmon Tree. It wasn't originally a persimmon tree. Frances Louise's face was like a complicated map full of ridges and wrinkles. Her back was stooped when she walked, and she shuffled a little. Still, she had a twinkle in her eye, and she always had a kind word for neighbors and family. She spent most of her days in her rocking chair, looking out over her yard in a house that she had built with her husband and that she had passed down through her family. When she had a visitor, she shared her memories, and when she was alone, she remembered to herself. It was during one of those mornings alone that Frances Louise surprised herself by coming up with an ambitious idea. She made a phone call, and a few hours later, a very tall, skinny parcel was delivered to a bare corner of her yard. It was springtime, just like now, and the earth was just waking up. She found a garden spade and her old faded gardening gloves and pulled a low seat over to the spot by the newly delivered parcel. She sat down on the seat and slowly, very slowly, she began to dig. It was hard work. Now and then she'd have to sit back and straighten and look at the clear blue sky. But then she'd get back to digging until eventually the hole was dug. just the right size. And very carefully, she shifted and rotated the bottom of that tall, skinny parcel into the hole until kerplunk. She inspected it and was satisfied. And slowly she pushed the earth back into the hole all around the bottom of the parcel. That too was hard work. And finally she was finished and she unwrapped the tall, skinny parcel, and there it was. Do you know what it was? It was a beautiful sapling persimmon tree. And just then her granddaughter arrived for a visit with her youngest child on her hip. "Grandma, you be careful. What are you doing? Planting a tree at your age?" "Good morning, Denise. It is not just any tree. It is a persimmon tree, just like the one you used to build fairy houses under when you were a girl." "But Grandma, it won't make persimmons for years." Frances Louise laughed as she pointed at a very old tree in the opposite corner of the yard. Some of its branches were broken off and others were bent with age. Most of them were bare, even though it was the middle of spring. She said, "I'm like that old persimmon tree. It's just about ready to be finished. I remember when I was a little girl and my great-grandmother taught me so much with that old tree. I loved to climb it. Its branches were just my size and it seemed to grow with me. I felt safe there. And when I was a young woman, I picked some of its delicate blossoms and decorated my hair with them. I think that's how my husband came to notice me. My grandmother taught me how to make persimmon jam, just like I taught your mother and we taught you, remember? And every year in the fall, we'd always cut the seeds to try and predict what sort of winter we would have. Now I am a great-grandmother." Frances Louise looked very dreamy as she continued. "I have lots of time on my hands. I sit and I remember and I look out my window. Mostly I am happy with my life, but a little while ago I sat looking out into my yard and I realized that I had never planted a tree. Never. And it just didn't seem right. I have great-grandchildren, and they'll need a persimmon tree when I'm gone." "Of course," smiled Denise as she pledged to herself to do something for her great-grandchildren too, even though she didn't have any yet. I wonder what Denise will do. Perhaps she will plant a tree too. What will you do? As for Frances Louise, after planting the tree, she returned to her rocking chair to look out her window and smile. Here ends our story.
Listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the water. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard.
in the voice of the water.
We are thinking about those who gave us this place, those who came before us, whose shoulders we stand upon, for whom this place wouldn't be here if they hadn't lived. And so we're thinking a lot on our birthday, on Heritage Sunday, of those who came before. And we recognize that during the pandemic, we weren't able to gather for a long period of time as members of our community died, as we normally come together and celebrate them. So we wanted to honor them on this day. And so I'd like to invite you, as we call out the names of those who, from our church, who have died in 2021, 2022, and so far in 2023. I'd invite you, if you're able and willing, to stand with us as we read these names. Jackie Tomsovic.
Herman Rios.
Gloria Caldwell.
Grace Fights.
Clayton Vaughn.
Jim Vaughn.
Robert Leeser Jr.
Patricia Miller.
Gordon Cecil.
Robert Brooks.
James Hardwick.
Jan Alexander.
Robert Howard.
Ruth Richards.
William Bowles.
Mary Wallace Warner.
Herb Beatty.
Philip Arnett.
Mary Ellen Gumby.
Jane Spillers.
Charlotte Bailey.
Noah Miracle.
Anthony Ringgold.
William Dunn.
Charlie Cox.
Charlie Mitchell.
Roger Weirs.
Trish Leeser.
Rebecca Deaton.
Doris Mayfield.
Bill Jensen.
Sue Forney.
Harry Crampton.
Barry Wilder.
Vic Powell.
Dick Leeser.
Robert Tucker.
Marion Gottwalls.
David Laughlin.
Carmelita McNair.
Robert Reese Sr.
John Davis.
Ronald Morrison.
Harriet Jensen.
Ronald Jacob.
Glenn Vischer. in whatever number of days ahead are still ours to claim. Let us live them worthy of those who've come before and worthy of those who are yet to be born. Amen.
As you settle into your seats, I invite you to take a few slow, mindful breaths. As we looked on all those faces and heard all those names, we're also remembering our own loved ones, our own ancestors, those who've come before us, those who will continue long after us. We are our ancestors' breath. Breathe that into your own body right now. I invite you to feel their presence, their vibration in your own flesh and bones and blood. Do whatever you need to do to bring yourself fully into this present moment. Because this moment is forever.
We're supposed to be celebrating a birthday here. Why are we talking about so much about death? But that's the thing, is that life and death, they go together. They're one of the same. They're part of the same thing. They're two sides of the same coin. And so I realize it's kind of countercultural here in America to talk about death at all. And so here we are, a kind of a countercultural people, carving our own path in a culture that sometimes needs people to be carving their own path and to be doing it their own way. Did you know that book, Tuesdays with Morrie, came out some years ago? This student, Mitch Albom, I think his last name is, he interviews his professor, Morrie, who happens to be in the process of dying, and he gets all these little glimmers of wisdom. In it, Morrie explains, everyone knows they're going to die, but no one believes it. It's kind of a problem. Now, if we really did, we would do things differently, he says. So we kid ourselves about death as if it's not going to come. But he says there's a better way, to know that you're going to die and then to be prepared for it all the time, every day. That way, he says, you can actually be involved in your life while you're still alive. Because death has that way of focusing us on what's important right now. He suggests that we ask every day, is today the day? Am I ready? If it is, am I doing all that I need to do? Am I being the person that I want to be? Because while we still have breath, we have an opportunity to be the person we still want to be. The writer E.B. White, who wrote the book Charlotte's Web, who Who's read Charlotte's Web? I know there's some young people in here who've read Charlotte's Web. So E.B. White watched his wife Catherine planning the planting of bulbs in her garden in the last autumn of her life. And later he wrote about it. He said, there was something comical yet touching in her bedraggled appearance. The small, hunched-over figure, her studied absorption in the implausible notion that there would be yet another spring, oblivious to the end of her own days, which she knew perfectly well was near at hand. Sitting there with her detailed chart under those dark skies in dying October, calmly plotting the resurrection. Plotting the resurrection. Now, I realize resurrection is kind of a big word for a humanist service. But what is resurrection but from death comes new life? And Catherine planted bulbs. And Catherine planted the resurrection. I can remember being with this wonderful woman from this church, Penny McElroy, and her daughter Donna, who was one of those who lit our chalice this morning. And Penny plotted the resurrection in this way. She made All Souls a beneficiary of a lead trust. Those in finance know about those. But with that, we were able to establish a fund which endowed the internship we have here at All Souls. And we bring in young people and people of all ages who want to go into the ministry, and we get a chance to benefit from them and their learning and their interest and their passion. And then they go out all over the country and even in other parts of the world to do their ministry. Have you ever seen those twirling seeds that come down off of giant maple trees in the fall? Just like a mighty maple, Penny's faith in our future spins and floats and is carried by the wind like miniature helicopters all over to a great distance, planting ministers who inspire new ministers and ministries all across this country. Can you imagine the impact of that gift? A gift that truly keeps on giving to others across the generations and into perpetuity. And we all get to take a part in it. I remember Bisser Barnett. Some of you remember, Pat, you remember Bisser Barnett, she had stories she'd tell me about being in one of those iron lung machines as a kid because she had polio when she was really young. She plotted the resurrection by giving All Souls the money to start and establish the Jenkin Lloyd Jones Press. And pretty soon, this flower popped up, and then this one, and then this one, and they will continue long after you and I are no longer here. It was thanks to her faith in this free religion that we have, and in this organization called All Souls, that on the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre, the Jenkin Lloyd Jones Press published what is considered by many the foremost account of some of the incredible individuals and families who built and rebuilt Greenwood before and after the massacre, showing us that seeds can even be planted and bloom out of the ashes of destruction and tragedy. I can remember walking up these crumbling concrete steps and the wobbly, rusted banister and the broken screen door that slammed, behind you as you walk in, and going in to see Virginia Day, a member of this church who was busy plotting the resurrection by making a gift while she was still alive so that we could buy the cameras that we have around here that allowed us to put our services up on the internet. And Then she put us in her will as well so that we could continue to advance over the generations long after she was gone. So if you are watching online right now, if you've ever watched online, for example, during the pandemic, or if you've ever watched one of our messages on YouTube, you have Virginia Day to thank for that. And what I want you to know about Virginia is that her son, Orville and Virginia's son, Barry, he died back in the 90s, tragically, of HIV/AIDS. Grew up in Oklahoma, a young kid back in the late 70s into the 80s when being gay was not very well thought of. And a lot of the churches especially talked about him, said terrible things. And Orville and Virginia really appreciated the fact that this congregation took a moral stand and took a religious position in favor of gay and lesbian people long before it was popular, long before others would, and they did it at some risk to the reputation of the institution and other things, but they didn't care. And Virginia and Orville appreciated that. And so knowing that, she said, I want the messages from All Souls to be able to influence the public discourse, which means those messages have to get out beyond the walls of the church and the people who just self-select to enter. And if you may remember, before marriage equality was legal in the United States, there was a message that I delivered from this pulpit here on gay marriage that went viral because of Virginia Day's generosity, her belief and her love in this free tradition that we're a part of. Reverend Suzanne Meyer, who some think was the best preacher that ever stood in this pulpit, and I'm not going to argue that case, but she was only here for about 2 years. But she was so impressed with our children and youth choir program. She watched these kids learn to sing, but more than that, learn how to have confidence in themselves and to understand different concepts that were in the songs. And by being part of a community, a lot of them weren't maybe athletes to be on a sports team or what have you, but they did it through music, and she saw it change their lives. So she left, when she died, she left everything she had to the children and youth choir program here at All Souls. These are just a few, I could go on, but a few of the mighty cloud of witnesses, if you will, who loved this place long before some of us were even born. And they're loving us still because of their generosity. They planted bulbs while they were alive that continue to bloom and make our lives more livable and more lovable. And they will bless people who are not even born yet because of what they've done. They planted trees under the shade where we can get shelter through our hard times and where we can get through maybe some of the things, crazy things happening in our culture because of what they've done. But they didn't just do it for us. They did it forever. To do something that could last forever. I know that my wife Anitra and I, we're starting to look at redoing our wills and getting our papers in order as we're getting a little bit older. And so we've got All Souls. We're planning to put All Souls in there. It's a planting of that. It's plotting our legacy, our future, our hope. And this congregation, if you're a part of this community, I invite you to consider in your own way how you can help be part of its future. Because just imagine the love that you have for this place and for its people can live on forever through a gift to our endowment. So Maury says, is today the day? He asks. Are you ready? If it is. And how might you and we together help to plot the resurrection? Because this isn't just their heritage and their legacy we celebrate today. It's ours and it's yours. And I love you. Thanks.
Gorgeous song. Gorgeous song. This is a new day, and I have something very old to show you. Because this is a very old dress. It's a little more dramatic when I was taking off my robe, but that's okay. I can thank you. Thank you, sir. So, I love that song. This is a new day, and what is that other line? Love of life is hope for me. So I love that. Love of life is hope for me. This dress I'm wearing today belonged to one of my grandmothers, and so it's the first time I've ever worn it, and I hope it's not the last time. You can clap for my grandmother, LaDonna. Her name was Rita, so I did a little math, and I think probably the dress is about 70 years old, and I'm about to turn 60. And of course, you know I had a grandbaby, so if you track now from this dress to my granddaughter, that's 5 generations, very concrete, you know. And I did keep the dress as a way to remember and honor my ancestor. So, and I am old enough, as Marlon was saying, it's a little countercultural and counterintuitive to be talking about death on a birthday, but I am old enough to feel death coming closer to me and to want to think about what I will leave behind. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that this morning. Of course, it is only when we accept that endings are real that we can think about what we want to leave behind. But it's not easy. Just because it's obvious, it doesn't mean it's easy to think about these things. It's been actually really difficult for me the last few months, and I can feel the challenge of facing endings very personally this morning because, honestly, I've been struggling with accepting my own ending here at All Souls. But with encouragement from all of you, I am finding ways with your love and support to find the strength to face even this ending and to take time to consider what I want my legacy to be, what I want to leave behind. The manner and style in which we close out our ministry will be very similar to the way in which we will die, writes Reverend Roy Oswald. Continuing, in death and in grief, we do not so much need protection from painful experience as we need the boldness to face it. In death and in grief, I was thinking, and in all kinds of leaving a job, leaving a marriage, leaving home to go to school, leaving a relationship, a state, or a country. When we're leaving and when we're the ones being left behind by a lover because we're losing a job, we're experiencing a divorce, there's a change in leadership. In all those cases of leaving and being left, we do not so much need protection from painful experience as we need the boldness to face it. Because when we're bold enough to face our endings, then we can ask ourselves, what will they remember me for? What do I want to leave behind? I know a lot of you, and I know many of you are already asking yourself these questions in your own lives, and sometimes I have these conversations with you. And remember, Deanna Tyrrell and I are pretty much exactly the same age, and we told each other a few years ago, probably near the start of COVID, that by the time we turned 60, we were going to get all our ducks in a row. So I'm just going to talk about a few of those ducks, and I'm so happy Reverend Lewis is here this morning because he's really eager, ready to work with y'all on getting your ducks in a row, because this is a really powerful legacy we can leave our loved ones. Just to leave clear instructions about the medical care we want and don't want to receive. To leave clear instructions about who we trust to manage our finances and our health care. You can assign a person you trust as your proxy and set that up ahead of time. Instructions about your memorial service, what music and poetry you want shared in this sanctuary. We have an All Souls form you can fill out, and we can talk about that with you before the time comes. And clear instructions about what you want done with your body, and of course, leaving a will. Those are all incredible legacies to leave your family members, your loved ones, your friends. So I strongly encourage you, if you are feeling bold enough after this morning service or sometime this week, to reach out to Reverend Lewis and start doing that kind of work. And please note, I didn't say old enough, I said bold enough. Because there's never a better time than now to take care of these affairs. So my mother, who died a couple years ago, she left a few things for us. She left a file folder in her desk drawer with the words, "My death," marked in red ink. And not everything, but a lot of things we needed were in that folder. So I thank you, Mom, for that. And then I also found this box on her desk. And I haven't been able to throw it away yet. The cards, I don't know if there are any kids in here. I told the cards, oh yeah, a little good history here, because we used to write things down on cards and save them on paper and put them in boxes, remember? Yeah, like an old-fashioned thing to do. These cards are in alphabetical order, and on each card is the name of an organization that my mother donated money to. And I will only read you the A's, I promise. AARP, ACLU, All Souls Unitarian Church of Tulsa, Alzheimer's Association, American Cancer Society, the American Red Cross, Amnesty International, American Veterans Association, and the Association Famille de Compagnons de la Libération. Thank you. I treasure this box. I think you're figuring out why with me, because my mother left behind evidence of her values. She didn't just live her values, but she left behind this evidence of her values, which continue to inspire us, those of us who knew her and loved her. And I became aware this week, thinking about this box, that not only does her love live on in us, but her values live on in the world through her giving. It's been a bit of a reckoning for me, but I realized also that I think Florence understood what Shannon was saying in her story, that she knew that all her life she had been first climbing and then sitting under and pruning trees, so many trees, that other people had planted. And she knew that, just as we are sitting in a church today that other people before us imagined and organized and discussed and supported and built and sustained for over a century, which is amazing. Now this morning, not all of you may know, though I know some of you do, that I'm moving to the Pacific Northwest and leaving All Souls to live closer to family. So when I talk about struggling with my own decision to leave, that's what I was talking about. And some of you have told me in the last few weeks that the way you heard or found out about this news felt disappointing or even hurtful. So despite my wanting sometimes to hide away from this leaving, because I care so much for this congregation, I'm learning how to be bold enough to face it and face you. I will say that having Reverend Lewis here on staff has made it much easier to leave. And also it's important to know this, especially this morning as we celebrate our birthday, that because Reverend Lewis is here, I've been able to pay attention to stewardship and the longevity, the future, the forever of this church. So 13 years after joining the ministry team and 4 years after my installation by you in this sanctuary, I'm hoping publicly, I'm sharing with you publicly that I hope that part of my legacy here will be a really deep understanding and integration of the idea that what we love and give today for a future world we won't see is precisely how we and our love outlasts death and lives on. So I see you nodding your heads, and I see the children coming in, and there's our future right there, and of course we want our future, we want the future to be bright. But and those words feel good and they sound good and they're pretty words, but they weren't easy words for me to say this morning. So I have a little story to tell you. As much as I do believe those words, sometimes I'm arguing with those ideas inside myself. You know, nothing lasts forever, nothing is eternal. What is all this spiritual talk about eternal things? And I honestly have been wrestling with my leaving, and I was really struggling, feeling sorry for myself, you might say. That I was working so hard and wondering, why am I working so hard to build this future that I won't even be a part of? Feeling a little sorry for myself, I was with Shannon in my office, and so I shared with her a little bit about how I was feeling. And I think I was whining a little bit and said something like, you know, why am I working so hard to pull together these teams that I won't even be a part of? And Shannon, in her wisdom, and Shannon grew up in this church, so I think really understands our message today in a very profound way. She took a deep breath, and then with a little hint of a smile, she looked at me and she said, that's what we're all doing, Barbara. We're all working with and giving to the church so that it will be here long after we're gone. And she's right. But it really wasn't easy for me to hear, not at first, because what I wanted her to say was that I mattered and that I would be missed. Me. It's so easy to think that things are about us, right? It's paradoxical, though, because we belong to a place like All Souls precisely because it's not about me or us. It's about something much, much bigger than us. This community is about embodying the world as we hope and dream it will one day become. It's about learning and learning to let go. It's about healing and growing more whole. It's about trusting and embracing transformation. Here in this community, with each other's support, we release our fears and we can face our endings. And we can plan, as Marlon said, for the resurrection. We are a community, but we're also an institution. And I want us to talk about that and think about that for just a few more minutes this morning. We're an institution whose core value is love beyond belief. And it matters that we're an institution because we're living in a time when trust in institutions is very low, but when trust in institutions is desperately needed. Our church is an embodiment of what last century theologian James Luther Adams called, these are his words, we are an institution that is a training ground for the skills that are required for viable social existence in a democracy. And we are a means for the institutionalizing of gradual revolution. Kind of makes my spine tingle. I hope it's making some of your spines tingle. And because that's who and what we are, that's what we were designed to be, this is an institution that needs to stay healthy and grow even stronger. Together, here at All Souls, we practice what Adams called the indispensable discipline of social responsibility. Again, I just love those words, and if you love just this little taste I'm giving you, I really encourage you to read an essay by James Luther Adams called The Indispensable Discipline of Social Responsibility, Voluntary Associations. I think it will help you understand history, the times we're living in, and the purpose of this congregation. We did not choose where we were born or who we were born to, but we do choose to freely assemble here, continuing a tradition our religious ancestors fought for, the right for religion to be free of state control. And in Oklahoma, that matters a lot. In Adam's words, by covenant, we respond to love's community-forming power. And with the power of community that we create here, we can break through old social structures and participate in making social decisions today and into the future. So in closing, I want you to imagine this institution, this 102-year-old institution, as a stool that's been built over the last 102 years. And imagine that stool standing on 3 legs, because a 3-legged stool is the most stable kind of stool. And that stool is supported by 3 legs, and they are the present. One leg is the present, our operating fund, and another leg is the future, and that's our capital fund. And the third leg is the forever, and that's our endowment. And all of us, no matter what our means, can contribute to all 3, ensuring that our love and our values will live on long after we take our last breath. I'm not quite where Marlon and Anisha are, but I am getting my ducks in a row, and I am, after this week of reflection and writing, going to seriously consider giving some of what I'm left to All Souls, because honestly, I can't think, I have to think about how to honor this, but All Souls is in here, so I can't think of a better way for my love and values to live on than through this institution. So for now, I will say, I am forever grateful to have been part of All Souls. I see a bright, bright future for this beloved community. And right now, in the present, I love you. May each and every one of us be remembered for and with love.
Well, let's sing a little bit about it.
Let's.
Lean on me, David.
Yeah, let's do it.
Now, I don't have the words in front of me, though. So I need your help, okay?
Let's see. Shannon knows it. So here you go.
Sometimes in our lives, right? If you know it, sing along with us. Oh, wait, look at this. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain. We all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long. Somebody to, you just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong. I hear some voices out there. For it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You can lean on me, Ray. Shannon can lean on both of us. Yeah.
Yes. I'm leaning too. All right. Every week at All Souls, we give away our plate to an organization doing the work of love, justice, and care in our community. In honor of Women's History Month, today's offering will go to the YWCA East Community Center. Since its founding in 1914, YWCA Tulsa has continually adapted to the challenges of an ever-evolving society and persistently served the needs of women, their families, and the community of Tulsa. And they continue to focus on addressing systemic disparities, eliminating barriers, and investing in the success of those who are most at risk in our community, including immigrants and refugees. So when the offering plate comes around, please give generously. But first, I do have a few announcements. So today, right after the service, immediately after the service is Emerson Hall. Please join myself, Barbara, and Reverend Marlon for our Heritage Sunday reception as we celebrate 102 years. Now, just kind of that again, 102 years. Yes, birthday. And speaking of birthdays, yesterday was somebody's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Rick Fortner. Can we?
Hear you sing out loud and strong. Are you ready? Let's sing happy birthday to him. Happy loud. Thank you, Pat. Happy birthday, dear Rick. Harmony. Happy birthday to
Wow, yes, indeed, and many more. And just as Marlon and Barbara spoke about contributing to our endowment in the form of legacy gifting, ensuring us for another 100 birthdays. Think about that, another 100 birthdays or more, 200, 300, who knows? So, but right in your pew back, there's a Focus on Forever brochure. Please review that and take it with you. And consider stopping by the Life Decisions table in front, and there's a stewardship team out in the foyer as well. Let's see, Holding Grief our support group meets today at 1 p.m. in Thoreau Lounge. In this program, we explore grief and loss through personal sharing, support, and education about the grief process. Parents, it's time to start thinking about summer camp. Camp Sleuth runs between June 12th through the 16th, so please call the church office for more information and details. And that concludes our announcements. Please check your order of service for additional announcements and information. Now let us receive your most generous offering. Thank you.
That's for Dave Stout. I like it.
Now it's starting to feel like a birthday party. That's right. We've got food and refreshments and cupcakes and all kinds of great stuff. And so instead of greeting you at the door, we're going to greet you in there because we want some of that food and cupcakes too. So come on in and say hello. Celebrate with us 102 years. If you're online, we hope you'll stay on Zoom and connect with one another. If you're here for the first time, grab one of those gift bags on your way out. Listen to these words as we extinguish our chalice. You and I, we are prophets of a future which is not our own. We accomplish in our lifetimes only a tiny fraction of the magnificent enterprise of our life. Go and be blessed and be a blessing. Amen. Hey, babe.
Love beyond belief.
Love beyond belief.
Love beyond belief.
Love beyond belief.
Hi, Jeannie. I see you online.
Love beyond belief.
Love beyond belief.